let's talk about this news out of the economy today. Did you guys see retail spending? If I said to you, what do you think the retail spending report was for July?
Well,
It is the backbone of America's economy. All of us going out and spending money. Do you think people did that or did not do that in July? What would be your guess?
my guess would be that we didn't see anything trend crazy negatively or positively. My guess would be that we kind of just
A,
stayed the same.
a massive bounce upward. Sales at U.S. retailers unexpectedly surged in July, rising by a full percentage point from June. The economists expected a 0.3% gain. That's crazy. I mean, that is,
I wonder if that's back to school.
I don't know. You look at sales jumped across most categories last month, rising the most at car dealerships, which likely reflects a rebound from the cyber attack on software systems that detailers or car dealerships used early in the summer. And I think you're going to see another bump because mortgage rates came down. And if you get a Fed cut rate in September, I think you're going to see another bump. Car sales spiked 3.6% in July. Retail, excluding car sales, retail sales were up 0.5 percentage point from June to July. Retail spending on electronics and grocery stores rose robustly in July because we're seeing food costs come down, up by 1.6%. A massive bump. Massive bump. That's crazy. It is wild that you are seeing this kind of spending going on. And I think you look at the rhetoric that we're getting from our candidates, like Donald Trump yesterday talked about how he is going to cut gas prices 50% or energy prices 50%. Do you understand how impossible that is? Because right now we're at so you're talking about per gallon. Like you're never going to do that. That will gut the oil and gas business in this country.
$3.45 is the average national.
So $1.70, right?
Yeah.
And you're seeing inflation continuing to come down. And this is going to be interesting in as far as this pertains to the presidential election. Kamala Harris at some point is going to have to start talking about what her policies are. And you are starting to see there is pressure finally from the party of Trump to get her to start talking about policy and to get her to either bind up with Joe Biden and his policies or step away from Joe Biden and his policies. Finally, I think you're starting to see the party of Trump pressure her to do that. She's got a huge speech Friday night. This speech she's going to go tomorrow. Today's Thursday. This speech she's going to give tomorrow, I think, will be the most impactful on the election yet.
I think it's the first opportunity for her to misstep.
Well, she's got to talk about policy because if you look at what Joe Biden has done, like you're hearing this Donald Trump narrative about energy, and I think it's one of the things he believes he can hang on to. And he's talking about this drill baby drill thing. Joe Biden has set records for drilling, like 13 million barrels a day. Like nobody has drilled at this level. I think 3 of the 4 highest oil production years have been Joe Biden. The other one was Donald Trump. But you're looking at Joe Biden on a daily basis setting oil production records, right? So if you take what Donald Trump says about, hey, I'm going to slash energy prices by 50%, there's no way on earth that's happening. Because if you cut gas per gallon from 340 to 170, what does that do globally? Well, if you think, okay, well, we're going to cut that price, $1.70 gas, you would think demand goes up, right? Well, if you have high demand on gas, do you think they're going to sell it for $1.70 a gallon? There's no way. Okay, throw that out. The cost to do business, what's called a fixed cost inside of producing oil and then turning it into gas and petroleum products, they would go broke. They can't afford, you can't even, the drilling business in this country, gone, zero, done. You think we lost energy jobs, oil drilling jobs during the pandemic and Trump's OPEC deal? What do you think would happen? And he won't. But what do you think would happen if he cut gas prices to $1.70, which I just don't, it's not possible. Even during the pandemic, we were looking at it before the show this morning.
Yeah.
The lowest price during the pandemic was $1.93. So the idea, because Donald Trump yesterday in his speech said, hey, we're going to cut energy cost 50% at a minimum. It's just not possible.
Well, and look, I think the strategy. So I think I agree. Kamala Harris has to start talking about policy and making her stances very clear on where she, stands on the border and stands on these core issues that we all know and love. But I think the thing that Donnie's got to be careful with too is like you can't. And this kind of plays into what we were talking about with the online presence in the world now, dude. You can't just say whatever you want to say and think that certainly nobody's going to check you on it. I think the problem is right now that, Donnie's trying to find something to hang on to, but there are so many people that are getting involved in this election that are not pro Donnie or pro Kamala. They're pro finding a reason to vote for somebody that they're doing more homework than they've ever done because they don't know if it's true. But
this oil price thing and this gas price thing, one of the interesting trends is, did you guys notice that the gas and oil sector doesn't support either candidate? For the first time in modern American politics, the gas and oil money is not really on either side of the line. But where is it going now? Oddly, it's edging towards Kamala Harris. And why is that? Well, because Joe Biden is drilling more. But that's not, you haven't seen like UAW has fully endorsed Kamala Harris, fully endorsed. You haven't seen that from the energy lobby. And I think they're trying to be very careful because I think people are trying to figure out, can Kamala Harris actually win this election?
Mm-hmm.
We don't know that yet. I understand she's leading in a lot of polls, and I'm not in a place where I can say, I think she can win. Not yet. But if we keep having these conversations now where Fox News fact-checked Donald Trump on this gas price thing yesterday.
This Fox News thing, man, they're not helping Donnie.
And I don't know that they're trying anymore because you look at the oil men are not stupid. Oil men are not stupid. And you look at like trying to say that Joe Biden shut down and turned off and destroyed the Keystone Pipeline project. The XL pipeline was never built. He didn't turn off anything. He pulled the permit for it, but that was after the funding was already gone. They're trying to hang bad energy policy on Joe Biden, and it hasn't stuck. So publicly, I think if you ask most lobbyists in the oil and gas industry, they're probably going to say Donald Trump. But look where their money's going. Their money is slowly and surely moving to Kamala's side.
What is their allegiance to? This is what you have to understand. What's their allegiance to?
Yeah.
Their allegiance isn't to Donnie or to Kamala.
They want their jobs back.
Yeah, they want their jobs back and they want their profitability. And so that's the hard part.
And I think the bigger question is, because energy is something that the party of Trump has talked about routinely. Gas costs, inflation. Like the inflation thing, I think people are starting to figure out now. Inflation was a global issue. It's not like inflation just spiked in the US and all of a sudden, oh my God, the US has the pandemic. Look how much the pandemic impacted Donald Trump's presidency.
Yeah.
Huge. It impacted the economy. This other thing with the party of Trump, and I think if you're a Trump supporter, I would ask you, and if you're a Kamala supporter, I'd ask you this. Do you believe Donald Trump when he says that he will have inflation at zero? Okay, maybe believes the wrong word. Do you think inflation at zero is good for America? The answer to that is an overwhelming absolutely not. What happens when inflation is at zero? Well, what's required of that? Americans have to be spending money, right? Because if inflation's at zero, that means rates are really low and people are. But then what happens when Americans start spending money and they're buying houses and they're buying cars and they're buying shoes and they're buying TVs and electronics, and we wind up right back where we are right now, or where we were, because inflation's not that high and not nearly as high as it was. What was it? 9%, I think.
Yeah.
You don't want inflation at zero. And I think this is something that a lot of people don't understand as well. You can't sustain zero more than you can't sustain 9. At 9, our tits are getting pinched, right? Like none of us can sustain 9%. You can at 2 to 3%, you don't feel inflation in your home. At 0%, you have to understand if Donald Trump is correct and he brings inflation down to 0, we will go into an economic crash. We will have a massive recession. If you bring gas prices to $1.70, we will go into oil will absolutely tank again, and we will go into a massive recession. I think does Donald Trump know that? Do you think he understands that? I think he's counting on us not knowing that.
Yeah,
and
well,
us not
I
understanding
think that he says these things because, and this has been my stance for a long time. I think that the party of Trump's strategy, and again, I'm not criticizing him. I'm just making an observation based on what he says. Like, I think the strategy is, hey, we're gonna hit these talking points because we want to fire up our base and we want to just play to the typical American talking points of like, hey, you know, we have great energy, gas prices are down,
but
food
look at that
costs is
right
low.
there.
Like,
look at the EV conversation.
yeah.
Well, if we have EVs, gas prices are going to go through the roof. They're going through the roof with these EVs. Marjorie Taylor Greene 2 weeks ago. What happens if every American buys an EV? Gas prices go through the roof. They do? I haven't seen an EV that takes gas. I could be wrong. There's not a Tesla that you can put gas in. What happens if every American owns an EV? Demand goes way down for gas. Are EVs spiking and everybody's buying them?
Nope.
They're not.
And why is that? Because they're not sure. They're not 100% confident.
They don't work as well as we need them to work yet. But rest assured, if Kamala Harris gets elected and all of a sudden, and it's not going to happen, everybody has to buy an EV, gas prices are not going through the roof. They would tank. I actually think it'd be terrible for the economy.
I think the reason right now that Kamala Harris has the traction that she has is because the party of Trump and Donnie are not doing a good enough job executing on the plan. The plan has to be, hey, like, we need to talk about her shortfalls, talk about the issues where she is coming up short, not talking about, this crowd size thing or any of the
JD
other
Vance
stuff.
on a podcast a year or 2 years ago saying, agreeing that, God, fucking JD Vance is a disaster. It hurts my head. 2 years ago, JD Vance was on a podcast, and this is just coming to light now, where they were talking about the grandmother's role in the home. Okay, that's flammable right there.
Yeah.
But then the host says, well, the post-menopausal grandmother's job is to rear her grandchildren. That's her role in America. And what did JD Vance say? Yeah, uh-huh. This guy. How did JD Vance become the pick? I think JD Vance was a young, good-looking dude who espoused greatness on Donald Trump.
He became the pick because Donald Trump's strategy is to play to the talking points that the base likes. And that's my concern for Donnie. I'm telling you, that's my single biggest concern, is that he's only trying to cater to the folks who already follow him. He's not trying to cater to the new folks clearly coming into this election who don't believe in either candidate, but obviously believe in their right to vote. And I'm telling you, that's what's happening. If you look at all the things he says, you can go issue by issue. look at all the stuff he says. When it's not factual, he's just saying because he knows the people that follow him like it. But then is Kamala Harris going to call him out for that stuff? If she doesn't, that's a big mistake on her part.
And I also think that's exactly right. You've got to call JD Vance and Donald Trump out. Like all of the like this bullshit about Tim Walz's military career. Did he say that he carried a gun in war? He did. And he owned it. And I think he's done a great job owning it. Under no circumstance, timeline, evidence, actual facts did Tim Walz retire from the military to avoid going to being deployed. That never happened. And JD Vance continuing to try and push that narrative that Tim Walz retired to avoid deployment has now unquestionably hurt him in the polling and hurt Donald Trump in the polling. And there's no doubt, if you listen to all the people supporting Tim Walz and you look at when he filed to run for Congress, I don't know what JD Vance is doing. Oh, I do. That's right. He's hurting Donald Trump. It's remarkable.
Yeah.
I just, it's amazing to me. And I've never seen a candidate in Kamala Harris have to say so little and do so little and yet take an unbelievable boomerang effect in the polls. She's said nothing. She's done nothing. And she's winning.
Yeah.
And it's because you keep because the party of Trump continues to attack ovaries and vaginas. And I don't understand it.
Yeah.
This speech he gave yesterday, another absolute disaster. The thing with Elon the other night, where they're talking about union busting and how Elon's the great, union buster. Now you've already got unfair labor practice charges filed against them. What are you doing? And everybody's like, oh, Donald Trump's the party of the union and the worker. Apparently not. Right? Remember that argument we had on the show?
Yeah.
Stay on script. Hello.
Yeah, I wouldn't be talking about union busting, bro. That's not going to get you unions.
Yeah, it's too late now. Tim Walz didn't retire to avoid deployment, but he did finish as a CSM. He didn't finish the training. He may have worn the rank, but he retired who cares? Tim Walz, again, I don't have a dog in the Tim Walz fight. But I am never going to sit on this show and denigrate somebody's service. Tim Walz served this country for 24 years in the Guard. And should he have said he carried a weapon in a forward territory? He should not. And he owned that. And that's all you can ask the guy to do.
Yeah.
But he was in service for 24 years. This is the same guy that they tried to blame George Floyd on in the BLM riot. One, I don't know if you know this, it's Minnesota. They're like talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene's a wreck. But anyway, he was walking the streets of Minneapolis during the BLM riots, during the George Floyd riots. He's talking to police officers. He's talking to black Minnesotans. He is hugging people. He is shaking hands. He is asking them, what can I do for you? And you're going to sit here and talk about his rank because he didn't finish 2 credit hours to get that rank. I don't give a rat's ass. I don't care. The guy served the country for 24 years. Like, it's amazing to me.
Longer than most of us ever will.
And Kamala Harris has got to start talking about policy, and Donald Trump's got to start talking about Kamala Harris's policy instead of all this. Like, the borders are thing clearly did not work.
Yeah.
That
was tough.
The immigrant crime wave clearly has not worked because her polling keeps going up. You realize she's within 2 percentage points on who likely voters think will handle the economy better. She's within 2 percentage points now.
And hasn't really talked about what she'd do with the economy.
I'm telling you guys, we're in the party of Trump is in the wrong place on all of this. Get your shit back together here. Regroup. I don't think you can replace JD Vance. They're thinking about it though. And if they do, I think the election's over. I do. And now you've got RFK trying to get a cabinet position allegedly with Kamala Harris. Did you hear about that? RFK asked Kamala Harris for a meeting to discuss a possible cabinet position, and he would drop out of the race and endorse her.
We're just in a very weird time, man. I don't know how else to say it. Like,
Really?
That is wild. Like,
I am, yeah. And this is the Lopes fan, Gabe. That's a great point. You're trying to pick on a guy. Here's the problem with picking on Tim Walz's service for 24 years. You have a guy in JD Vance who was, he wrote press releases. That was his job, and he got out after 1 year. Donald Trump avoided the draft repeatedly over bone spurs. You're on the wrong side of it. And you're on the wrong side of women's rights. You're on the wrong side of Project 2025. You're on the wrong side of all this stuff. And what is all that party wants to talk about?
And I do think, as far as social media is concerned, that whole thing the other day where he said that, he's had the biggest crowds in the history of U.S. speeches. That particular one was
that his crowd on January 6th was bigger than Martin Luther King's crowd for "I Have a Dream." What are you thinking? Yeah. This on the heels of your she turned black comment at the NABJ.
Yeah, that's I'm personally not trying to hate on Donnie. It's not like that for me. But what I am saying is that I look at this and I say, you're not really giving me anywhere to go, Don. You're not giving me a way to say, yeah, you know what? You could do X, or you could do Y, or you could do Z.
Why do you think he went to North Carolina? Does this not shock anybody that I think they have 16 electoral votes in North Carolina. Why do you think he was in North Carolina? Because he's worried about that state. You're talking about AI for her rally in Detroit when there's camera footage on the ground from people's iPhones of every different angle in that hangar. Why are you in North Carolina? You're in North Carolina because you won't stop talking about abortion, and you won't stop talking about things that aren't real. That's why North Carolina is in play. That Arizona should never be in play for a Democrat, yet it now has consistently been.
Which is insane.
Pennsylvania,
having lived in Arizona, that to the idea that state is up for grabs is insane to me.
I just don't understand it. And like immigration's something that Trump and Vance should be on, but they can't put forward evidence that Kamala Harris or the Democrats have ever talked about everybody in, like open borders. Like, it was amazing on the Elon X talk the other night. He routinely is going on about how Kamala Harris wants open borders, and yet was asked repeatedly in the comment section, okay, where's the evidence of that? And JD Vance said that the other day on CNN, in whatever the lady's name was, said, do you have any proof or evidence that Kamala Harris or Tim Walz or anybody in the Democratic Party has said that we should let everybody into the country? Is there any proof that that's her policy position? Is there any proof that no, the answer is no, there's no proof of that. She was the attorney general of a border state. And I don't understand why you just don't go with the reality is, hey, illegals are coming into the country. Go with your BS that it's the highest illegals in the country over the border in our history. And instead of saying black jobs, Donnie, just say they're taking jobs. Because people don't know, but when you say, oh, they're taking black jobs, the first question was, well, what's a black job, sir? Just they're taking jobs. They're a drag on our resources, our law enforcement. But you can't do that, can you?
Yeah, you can't.
Instead, you got to lie about her saying she wants open borders and that there's an illegal immigrant crime wave and bus loads of people that are being let out of Central American jails and bust into the United States, because that's what Kamala Harris wants and has approved. what are you talking about? Ask your governor in Texas who keeps putting immigrants on buses and sending them to Kamala Harris's house. Like, how stupid, like, you realize these are human beings and you're just sending them all over the place. Talk about the issue. You don't have to make stuff up. That's the issue. That's
I'm
why
telling you,
Trump is
people are
losing.
doing more homework than they've ever done.
Ugh. UW fan Jim, I'm not here for downplaying Vance's service. He is an ass, but he still served. You missed the point here. It's not that we're downplaying his service. He's saying, JD Vance, his whole message is Tim Walz quit the Guard so he didn't have to get deployed like I was. That's JD Vance's messaging. Nobody's downplaying what JD Vance did. The point is he served 1 year, not in a forward position. He was a PR person. And he's attacking a guy who served 24 years in the Guard, retired long before the deployment came out. That's the conversation. This is exactly the point. Service is service. We should not be in the business of criticizing people who serve in the military. It is a massive sacrifice. So as a political position, attacking somebody who's got 24 years in is really dumb. It's really, really dumb. Really, really dumb. And I don't understand it. I really don't. I don't know what they're doing. I don't. Kim Coulter, if you like high food prices, high interest rates, and open borders, then it's all good. But again, okay, Kim, let's have the conversation. Yeah. Let's have an open, honest conversation. Why are food prices high? Show me the policy that Joe Biden has put out. Or show me fingerprints from Kamala Harris on policy that's been put out that has kept food prices high. No, go ahead. Or high interest rates. Show me where Joe Biden's policy has kept interest rates high and gas prices high. Oh, you want the truth about inflation? Was inflation an American problem? Sure. But was it a global problem? Yeah. Is America the only one that had incredible inflation? No, the entire globe had it. Inflation in our current scenario is almost 100% pandemic supply chain related. And now corporate greed.
Yeah.
Because there's no evidence to support that food cost is directly related to a Joe Biden policy. There's no evidence to support that gasoline prices being higher are directly related to Joe Biden. In fact, the cost of gasoline goes right back to the OPEC, the deal that Donald Trump made with OPEC to increase production. And he said we would buy more OPEC oil, but then what did he do? He turned around and made a deal with Iran, which he promised OPEC he wouldn't do. So what did OPEC do? Slashed production, which did what? Raised the cost of gasoline. And I also want you to understand there's this conversation around, well, he doesn't drill. Joe Biden is drilling more than any other president in history, 13 million barrels a day. And when we talk about the strategic oil reserve, there is specific legislation that Donald Trump signed that requires presidents, including Joe Biden, to sell stock in the strategic reserve to pay down debt. So Donald Trump coming out and saying, well, Joe Biden, the strategic oil reserve's empty. It's not. Well, he's emptying it. The law says he has to, that you signed. Do you guys understand that Donald Trump and Joe Biden have both sold barrels out of the strategic oil reserve? And why did they do that? They're mandated by law. So I'm all for bad policy. Afghanistan, the pullout of Afghanistan was poorly handled.
Bad look.
Border security, Kamala Harris should have done more about border security. But trying to hang inflation on Joe Biden and trying to hang oil on Joe Biden Could he be more aggressive? I guess. He's drilling 13 million barrels a day. More than any other drill, baby, drill. Joe's already doing that. What are you going to go to 20 million barrels a day? You're not doing that.
And by the way, it's not an opinion. Those are numbers.
Those are facts.
So,
they're on Google. I would encourage you to get on the Google machine, guys. It's all right there. What I want people to understand is we're all Americans. You can get pissed and talk about, well, Monty, you shouldn't be talking politics. We need to talk politics.
Yeah.
Oh, we're a party of Trump or Kamala Harris. I don't care if you're blue or red. I'm an American. I'm talking about the issues that impact my pocketbook. Energy cost impacts my pocket. Last month, I paid a massive electric bill. Nothing Donald Trump has said is going to change my electric bill. Nothing. Do you understand that natural gas? This is the other thing that people forget. Natural gas. Why are we self-sufficient in natural gas? Because of how much we're drilling. And do you really want to go abroad and go find natural gas? Where does the world go when they need to buy natural gas? They go to Russia. You going to Russia to buy natural gas? I'm not. Come on. Let's have a real American, not Donnie or Kamala conversation about the issues. That's what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be supporting each other. Like, I got a comment on TikTok the other day that was ridiculous from a Trump supporter who said, I'm un-American, and he hopes great pain and destruction comes upon the youth of this country while they are being educated. And I'm not going to say the phrase because I think YouTube will flip out about it. But it's ridiculous that that's where we are. If you don't understand economics, if you don't understand why inflation is where it is, direct message, DM me, I'll send you all the information. If you don't understand why gas prices are where they are, DM me, I'll send you the information. Or just get on Google. Get on Google and look at inflation rates, global inflation rates. And during the before the pandemic, during the pandemic, after the pandemic.
It's not hard to understand, man.
If we are at 2.5% inflation, that's exactly, as an American, you should be like, whew.
Or humming.
We are humming as an economy. We need to get a rate cut from the Fed so that people will start buying homes again and start buying cars again. And we've seen a little bit of a bounce in cars, but we've got to get mortgages moving again. And mortgage rates are heading in the right direction, but we need the Fed to cut the rate so people can start selling and buying homes.
Because what you can be damn sure of is that potential buyers who haven't bought are ready. They're thirsty. They want it. And they just need to be put in a better position.
You just have to know that. And you need to get your ass out and vote. I'm begging you to register to vote. It is really easy to register to vote. Register to vote and then vote in this election. Please, I'm begging you. I don't care what side of the line you're on. If you want to vote for Donald Trump, damn it, that is your American right. And I want you to exercise it. You want to vote for Donnie? Please. You want to vote for Kamala? Please. But vote for somebody. Get out and vote, man. I'm begging you. I'm begging you. Good conversation as always. I appreciate all your input. I think it's imperative we talk openly and honestly about the issues affecting our families. That's what we're here for. The Monty Show, as always, presented by The Advocates, theadvocates.com. The best injury attorneys in the business. If you get hurt at work today, theadvocates.com, the injury attorney experts, the workplace injury attorney experts. Chat with an injury attorney live online, and it won't cost you a dime at theadvocates.com. Until tomorrow, yes, we have a Friday show. Say goodbye, Jake.
Goodbye, Jake.